Welcome to Root Canal Academy. I wanted to highlight a case that I just completed a few days ago. This is tooth number 20. It was a rather simple root canal treatment, and I want to specifically talk about two steps of the root canal playbook. And these are very important steps that are often overlooked, and it's the coronal negotiation and the coronal flare. So let's look at this case. This is tooth number 20. I accessed through the PFM with a cylinder diamond. Then I used a 330 Elber. I located the canal, so I'm in the canal. The question is, what do we do now? I'm staring at this canal. It's a necrotic case. I'm looking at the canal. What next? Well, the first thing we want to do is we want to put a little bit of bleach, sodium hypochlorite, in the canal chamber, and then we want to go and proceed to our coronal negotiation. And in this case, you're going to use your new best friend, the number 10C 21mm file. Okay, we want to use a C file because it's stiffer than a K file. It's a stainless steel file, it's stiffer. You want to use a 21mm, a shorty, compared to a 25mm because it's shorter and it's easier to get into the mouth and into the canal. This is the first time that you're staring at the canal. It's a little dot, and you want to do a little coronal flare, open orifice. You want to open up the orifice. First, you've got to do a coronal negotiation. So this 10C 21mm file is your new best friend. You need to trust me on this. So you're going to place this into the canal, and you're going to dip it into RC prep, and you're going to go down about 10 to 15 millimeters down the canal about. You're just going to make sure that the coronal part is open. That's why it's called a coronal negotiation. You're just going in, you're making sure it's loose. You just go about 10 or so smoothies, push, pull, push, pull, push, pull. You just make sure that that 10C file can run down that canal 10 to 15 millimeters. We're not trying to go down to the apex. We're not trying to go to the working length yet. We're simply doing our coronal negotiation. We're staying in the coronal third. Maybe it dips into the middle third, sure. But we're staying mostly in the coronal third because next, what are we going to do next? We're going to do a coronal flare. All right, we're going to do our coronal flare. Why do we do a coronal flare? Well, when we open the top of the canal, it's easier to get down to the bottom. Our whole goal in a case or any root canal treatment is to clean the entire root canal. Clean it, shape it, and seal it so that microbes can't get out of the canal or into the canal, and that we can get a successful root canal. So after we do our coronal negotiation, we're going to do a coronal flare with a Pro Taper Gold SX. This is my favorite coronal flare file. It opens up the orifice extremely well. It's very safe. You really have to, if you do a coronal negotiation first, you won't break this file as long as you're careful. You run this file at 300 RPMs, you place it into the canal, and you do 4 to 5 brushes, 10 to 15 millimeters down the canal. The same depth that you ran your 10C down. Okay, you don't even have to go that far down. You're not going vertically, you're not shaping vertically yet. You're shaping more horizontally. You're doing a coronal flare. You're flaring that coronal aspect of the canal so that you can open up the canal and you can get to the bottom easier. You're going to shape middle and apical areas of the canal with your shapers. So this is just your coronal flare file, and all it's doing is doing a coronal flare. So make sure every case that you open, that you treat, you follow the playbook and start with that coronal negotiation with your 10C shorty, followed up with a coronal flare file. My favorite is the Pro Taper Gold SX. Thank you.